Are you really confident, right, in the upcoming general election? How confident are you about the upcoming general election? You can hit us on Twitter. AM Live NTV is a Twitter handle. AM Live NTV, our profile name on Facebook, and 20505, our SMS portal. We have our guests already in the studio who will be able to chime in also as well on those particular stories. And also looking at the front page of a Daily Nation, a probing question is being asked, of course, without headline. This is on the front page of a Daily Nation. And they're asking, at this rate, it will take a miracle to vote? Really not a question, but it says, at this rate, it will take miracle to vote. This is what is on the front page of a Daily Nation. We have with us this morning Gladys Boss Shollei. She is a former chief registrar of the Judiciary. Also, Dr. Roba, Sharamo is a commissioner with the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. Also, we have Weke with us, who is the CEO of Institute for Education in Democracy. We are waiting for Junet Mohammed, who is the ODM election director, and Chris Musando, who is an official from the IEBC as well. Good morning, lady and gentlemen.
Good morning.
Right, let's just get into it first. Looking at the Daily Nation, that particular statement, will it take a miracle? Gladys?
Yes, and I mean, and it's a lot of hard work.
Yes.
Because just registering voters isn't an end in itself, because they've got to collate all the data. It's got to be sent to the regional offices. From the regional offices, it's got to the constituencies, to the regional offices, then to headquarters. And the headquarters is going to be merged together. And once all the data is merged together, they've got to work with the National Registration Bureau. And the National Registration Bureau they have to take one ID number and run it against if it's 12 million or whatever number they have. Mm-hmm. So basically, we talk about 12 million times 12 million, except that luckily for them, they have many machines that probably be able to do it. So there's still a lot of work to be done to clean up the register. So Kenyans think that if they get an extra 2 days, mm-hmm. that means that they will complete the register. The 2 days it's not just it, it's also the amount of work the Electoral Commission needs
afterwards
in order to prepare the register. And remember, people are saying there's duplication. Yes, there will be duplication at this stage. But in order to clean up the register, they would take the names and run them and be able to flag out the ones that are double registered. Mm-hmm. They will be able to correct people's names and so on. And then they will have to open up the register for verification. Mm-hmm. So we all get an opportunity to go back and make sure that our names are on the register. So that also takes a bit of time. And you must also remember, for the Electoral Commission to order the ballot papers or all election materials, they actually need the register, because all the election materials, the numbers are hinged on the register. Mm-hmm. So you need to know how many registered voters are there in a certain constituency and in a certain polling station, because even the printing and the packaging of the ballot papers is according to the numbers at the polling station. Mm-hmm.
Well, looking also at the tender that has been annulled by the court right now, this also throws off the IEBC, it throws it off kilter a bit, right? Mm-hmm. So what does this portend also for the electioneering process?
Again, and as I said, if you look at 2013, whatever complaints existed in 2013 was because of the shortage of time. If you remember, 3 bidders went to the Public Procurement Oversight Authority, the tribunal.
Yes.
And the matter was accepted, it took long, and by the time that they were allowed to procure, it was quite late. Mm-hmm. And if you remember, the kits that were said not to have worked actually arrived a few days before the election. Mm-hmm. So it was an impossibility to expect them to be able to work. I think they arrived at the end of February, the elections were in March. I think the last batch, in fact, arrived on the 24th of February, mm-hmm. and the elections were on the 4th of March. So simple things like getting the polling clerks and the employees to familiarize themselves with the gadgets was not even there, because you've got to train them, you've got to get them to use, you've got to charge all this equipment, you've got to make sure it works, and then you've got to dispatch it to the various polling stations. So I think time is a big issue. Mm-hmm. And I think, Debarl, if you remember the last time I was on this show,
yes,
I even said, stop fighting about the commissioners. We are wasting time. Mm-hmm. The IEBC is losing time. And they did lose a lot of time. By the time we were done with demonstrating and then getting rid of the commissioners, then getting in new commissioners, time was, in fact, running out. Mm-hmm. So I think as Kenyans, we should focus now and say, mm-hmm. yes, we can say, I'm an optimist all the time. So I think what we should do is say, yes, it will take a miracle. We can pull off that miracle only if we focus and tell ourselves what needs to be done for us to have an election. And then just focus on that, and let's stop our little fights and quibbering.
All right, so, but we had also the members of parliament saying that we can actually push the date of the election from August because, well, as we can see right now, it is unrealistic that we'll hold this particular general election on the 8th of August. So were they seeing something that maybe most of the parliamentarians were not seeing? Some of them, when you talk about David Ochieng. Let's hear from Brian Weke.
Thanks, Debarl. First, I think for me, I'm just looking at the timelines.
Yes.
And we must confess the timelines are quite tight. However, there are certain fundamental issues that we have to look at as a country.
Yes.
And one of those fundamental issues is ensuring that we enfranchise people to vote. You know, elections are actually lost and won during registration.
Yes.
If you look at the Constitution, it provides for the right to vote and ensuring that really we enfranchise as many people as we can. If you look at the statistics that are coming from IEBC, we're looking at around, based on their target, is around 6-point-something million.
Yes.
But if you look at statistics of people who have attained the age of majority, we're looking at around 9 million. So registering only 3 million really is an indictment to the electoral process and to a larger extent the commission. So for me, and if you look at also the timelines, we are supposed to inspect the register 90 days to election,
yes,
which gives us until May 8th. I would want, forget about these 2 days, I would want to urge the commission to actually increase this towards the end of the month. Then we have 2 months to actually prepare the register. For me, again, because of the tight deadlines,
yes,
we have to do a lot of things concurrently. One, as we register, the data we need to be having clerks within IEBC who would be keying the register. You know, we only have 6,000 BVR kits,
yes,
which again have to be distributed to around 45,000 polling stations. And I want to agree with Shollei that it's actually a lot of work. And that ought to happen concurrently. As they receive data, people should be keying in that data as we speak,
yes,
so that we distribute it. Because the other bigger problem would be, we only have 6,000 kits, as against nearly 45,000 polling stations. In the last election, we had 33,000. I think their proposal was to move it to around 45,000. So again, because of these tight deadlines, we also needed to be very proactive. What ought to happen as we speak? We need to have clerks within IEBC keying that particular data for purposes of ensuring that the register is verified 90 days to election. I think we ought to do a proper analysis as a country. I was one of those people who have been very clear that elections must be held on 8th of August. I think with the current timelines and the current issues and the current shenanigans and the current processes, it actually, I'm getting very worried. Because if we are to start the electoral, the process of procurement of ballot papers now, I can tell you for a fact that would take another 3 months. Another 3 months, would that particular farm be ready with ballot papers?
But why should it take 3 months? Because of course we can see
the procurement process. The procurement laws, yes.
Yeah, but looking at the procurement laws, I think, isn't there any provision that maybe when we have such a crisis, then we can have maybe a quicker procurement process? Because I remember also from my previous experience from the aviation industry, when an aircraft was on the ground, right, which was a big issue when it's on the ground, you had to actually make a quick purchase, right, saying this is an AOG, this is an aircraft on the ground, you cannot afford to actually have it on the ground. So can we have this particular part coming in very quickly so that now this particular aircraft may fly? Right? So do we have to go through the rigors of the procurement process because it's in the law so that we have a crisis right now? How do we handle that?
I think the law does allow for things like direct procurement or limited procurement and so on under certain circumstances, and they can make a case for it. And I think they should, if it comes to that. So they have those options. But even then the time is short because they've got to complete the register in order to know what numbers to order. And so I think there are many, and that's why I said, I think if we focus and said what needs to get done and stop fighting, we can actually do it.
But Gladys, why are we really drawn into this vortex again? We've been here before. This is sort of a deja vu. This was the same process that we went through. There was court cases, procurement of laws were floated again. Now we are the same place again.
And I think, Debarl, and I think I like what Brian says, that, I mean, Brian says we should get it's important. People should not be disenfranchised. I mean, they should be able to register as voters. But you should ask yourself, what's wrong with us as Kenyans? The reason why we have a 5-year electoral cycle is because we all know it takes 5 years to prepare for elections, okay? And it takes 5 years for our representatives to work for us in parliament, right? So it doesn't matter whether you add them a month or 2 months. The same members of parliament who raised issues about the IEBC commissioners were in parliament from day one after what they didn't like about the elections in 2013. They should have spent from day one their business in the House should have been to get rid of the commissioners then. Why wait until year 4? The same thing, we knew we needed to register voters. Did we have to wait until 2013? Remember that we have, the Constitution allows for continuous voter registration. First of all, yes, that was continuous, but virtually nobody knew about it. Every time I spoke to people, they didn't know about it. So what we could have been doing is having mini-mass voter registration exercises throughout the 5 years. Because every year we know people turn 18. So let's continue. We would have continued it. So why we have a crisis now and we are rushing to register people, it's because there's something wrong with us as Kenyans. And believe me, even if we give them 2 days or give them a month, they'll still do it late. But the Electoral Commission knew they were having an election in 2017.
I think we are really quick off the mark to raise accusatory fingers to Kenyans and tell Kenyans, you know, they do things under the wire, they wait for the last minute. You say there was no mass sensitization about the voter registration, which is a continuous exercise as domiciled in the Constitution.
And remember, the Electoral Commission has a director of voter education, permanently employed for 5 years. What were they doing?
We don't know his name. There is no civic education that has been. You are in the Institute of Education and for Democracy. How would you weigh in on this? They have failed dismally in trying to educate the public. So we should not blame Kenyans because, first of all, we're given 1 month and then we're told as if we don't have anything else to do, just waiting for voter registration.
Kenyans, our institutions.
They're occupied, actually. And you saw most of them expressing their frustrations that their employers could not let them go because, yes, you know, they have work, they have to go and fetch for their children and, you know, feed their family as well. So they have to eke out a living, right? But before we go there, let's just hear, first of all, also from Dr. Roba. Dr. Roba, looking at what the church is saying as well, they're expressing bugbears and fears that going by what we're seeing, and at this rate, we are likely to fall actually in the same scenario that we were in 2007, 2008. Do you concur with the church?
I do. Thank you, Debarl. I think the situation, if you look at the political environment currently, there is the 2017 general election is becoming a high-stake political process for, let's say, the government and the opposition. And the element of, if you just look at even the voter registration campaigns that the politicians have been going to, they go to their respective sort of strongholds. And it's creating a lot of anxiety across the country in terms of really, it becoming very emotive. But I also want to thank IEBC for actually also dealing a little bit more with the issue of the mass voter mobilization, a movement of voters from one area to another. But if you look at the political environment, it's getting a little bit toxic. I would want to say very, very toxic. The issue around, we are seeing that political zoning which is emerging at different levels, even intra-regions. I want to say intra-regions. Within, let's say, what is perceived to be a Jubilee stronghold, you'll be seeing contestations by different politicians, but particularly for key positions, the gubernatorial positions. There has been assessments done by NCIC together with Guyana Platform for Peace, And the number of hotspot counties range between 19 to 30. It fluctuates between 19 to 30 counties, or 33 counties. And in that, you will see there is that convergence of a lot of political interest, internally particularly. Our biggest worry, in fact, at NCIC level now, is even before we get to the bigger political contestation at maybe presidential level or so, intra-party nomination processes. That is the first stage.
Before we even go there, looking at just the registration process itself, also that is a spawning ground for friction, spawning ground for violence as it is. We have the coalition, also the NASA alliance, and also we have the current government. You know, they're drawn into this particular frosty relations, I should say right now, because one, they claim that there's an infringement from NYS, that they don't trust the whole electoral process and the registration that is ongoing right now. You as an NIC, from your standpoint, what will you actually weigh in? What will be your reaction?
I think what is very important, just speaking from what my two colleagues have also said, we need to reach a level where we need to build some sort of collective mutual trust. Collective mutual trust among the political stakeholders or election stakeholders. We must get our processes right. We must have credibility in the whole process itself. In terms of, we know what you have seen coming out, maybe the NYS issues in Runda or some BVRs being found in Isli and all that. I think institutions must be able to address some of these concerns so that it doesn't create another anxiety and fault lines within the political spectrum. So it's very, very important for the political stakeholders, election stakeholders, to be able to be speaking to each other. And I think at some point also gets our acts somehow together in addressing the key concerns. I think what Kenyans want is an electoral process that is credible. And once that credibility is demonstrated to an extent, then you will be able to deal with the social temperatures or conflict temperatures at different levels. So, but also the stakeholders must be able to nurture some level of more communication, honest communications with each other, and also be able to address areas of concerns in a more collaborative manner.
All right.
Yes. Let me just weigh in on something. You know, I like Daktari's use of word collective mutual trust. And I think as a country, we are coming from a level where we do not trust each other. If you read the Kriegler report, it is very clear, and Kriegler said he does not know who won the elections. Now, if you look at trends in this country, you find there are places where you get 100% voter turnout. Even in jurisdictions where voting is mandatory, like Australia, you don't even get 80% voter turnout. Where Agnes Boss Shollei comes from, Gladys. Sorry, they deliver 100% voter turnout. Where I come from in Luo Nyanza, we deliver 100% voter turnout. In Central and Mount Kenya region, they deliver 100% voter turnout. And I can tell you for a fact, statistically speaking, it is not possible. So we are operating from a level where we do not trust each other. We know very well that there are people who sit and think on how to steal elections. And that is the reason why, as we speak, you're seeing people questioning every decision the commission has made. Debarl, you're asking, you are in aviation industry. The reason why even now the procurement process has been questioned about ballot papers, because it is an integral electoral process. Depending on who has control of printing of ballot papers, you're nearly home and dry. And that is the reason why you can see we are actually questioning every process. Now, let me tell you, those of us who have worked in the NGO industry, there's something called a logical thought process. Where you start with activities, which moves to output, output which moves to outcome. Now, what we are doing as a country, we have determined the outcome, then we're actually working backwards. It is only in Kenya where you're saying you want to audit the register, and at the same time, you're registering voters. What if the audit says that there is a major problem with the register of 2013? How do you start dealing with the problem? So you are already moving towards registering more voters under the impression that apparently the register is okay. You have handed over that contract to a particular firm. The firm is yet to audit to tell us the veracity of the issues within the register. Then all of a sudden we are continuing like everything is normal. So it is only in Kenya where you start from outcome moving back to activities.
Yeah, true.
Yes.
And I think you say an important point. That is the way we work. And also think about, if we wanted to audit the register, why didn't we request for the auditing in 2014? Yeah, the moment elections were over, that is exactly what you're supposed to do. Audit the register, audit the process, see what went wrong with the elections or what went well, and then be able to work towards working for the next election. But also, all this problem about delays in voter registration. Kenyans, we have refused. When I say Kenyans, I mean our institutions, our people in positions of responsibility were supposed to do this. We refuse to deal with the root cause. We love dealing with the symptoms all the time. Think about it. The reason why some people can't register is because it's taking a long time for them to get an ID, isn't it? And I think Kenyans have had this conversation. And I have participated in committees in government where they were working towards this, is having one single document. Which means the moment you're born, you're registered, isn't it? Because we have a birth register. And then immediately you turn 18, automatically you should be able to get your a document that is your ID, your voter's card, isn't it? Your PIN number, etc. But what we do in Kenya is we work in silos. We have the National Registration Bureaus who want to have their big contract issuing IDs. Then you have the passport registration office. They also want to have their big contracts getting documents to be able to give you a passport. And then we have the registration of births and deaths. They want to give you a birth certificate. And then who wants to give you everything? So what happens is, first, it costs the country a lot of money. And secondly, and I think it's selfish interests. Every organization wants to be able to give out that contract. They want to be able to procure. That's how people make money. That's how cartels make money. But if we had one single document, and then you can have, because look, in most places, even universities, you use the same card to be able to photocopy. It has your cash on it. You can pay for meals for it. You can use it to enter the library. You can use it to register for exams, and so on. It is simple. Kenya can do it. Those systems exist. Look at the smart cards that insurance companies use in hospitals. It's the same concept. It has your fingerprint, it has this, and so on. So why is it that we wait until just before elections, we start to helter-skelter running around and procuring everything, saying we are running out of time? I think the solution is we are out of time for 2017. We have no choice. We have to have the election on the 8th of August. So what happens is we have to do the way we've done it every year, is do the rush, try and put all the systems in place, have the election. But for God's sake, in 2018, can we start working towards a permanent solution, right down to the bottom, to the root cause?
All right, and I think the government also has been very slow to react, because I remember interviewing the latter Otino Kajwang, right, regarding when he was the Minister of Immigration. And he was saying that, yes, in the next 5 years, we're going to have the smart cards. As you speak, as you've mentioned about, having a smart card, that you have all this confluence of systems also attributed to that. So you don't have to go to, as you mentioned, the National Bureau of Statistics to check out maybe your passport. All things, the driving license also is attributed to that. They can check all your information in that one particular smart card. So is this a deliberate attempt, maybe even from the government, you say, so that they can actually game the system for their own benefits? You think so?
It's not necessarily the government. I think it's the various stakeholders in the institutions that don't want to merge this document. So that we should be in a situation where in Kenya, we have one document, the ID, which has your PIN number, everything. You're buying land, you use the same card. You're voting, you use the same card, and so on. And then you just have your travel document, your passport. If we did that, things would be so much easier. And then we should also, so we interlink all our systems such that if somebody dies, then you automatically remove from the voter's roll, from your ID dies to, you understand, as they issue your death certificate. When you get married, if you look at in South Africa, when you get married, that information actually goes to the Electoral Commission and the registration bureaus. Which happens is you can actually get there and you find your new name is in brackets. So they know the system. Everything works. And they follow you right from birth to death. And that system is possible. Kenya is way ahead in technology.
All right, thank you.